Hey there, A's Day fans. Welcome to our first edition of this year's A's Player Preview and Prediction Series. We're happy to be here, one episode per day, talking about one of your favorite A's players all the way up until opening day. Appreciate you stopping by for a short while today. We are very excited to be able to dive deeper into what the players on this 2026 roster project to be. I think this is a year of opportunity where the A's could really show that they are ready for the bigger moments, or perhaps another year of seasoning is in the cards. But until the games officially start and we get to analyze all those, it's all speculation up until that point. And what we want to do today, and with all of these mini episodes leading up to Open Day, is to capture excitement. Because this is an exciting time in the A's franchise. We are in the midst of ushering in a new era of A's baseball. And the product between the lines, there is a young, exciting core, at least with the lineup that is set to move forth. But there's a lot of opportunity with a lot of young arms as well. We're not sure who's going to fit one role. We have a general idea of the rotation, but there are two competition spots still open throughout spring training, and perhaps we're going to see an influx of prospects over the next couple of seasons. But that's not what we're here for today. That is the overall team preview, which will be available for your listening pleasure the morning of March 27th as we amp up our excitement leading up to first pitch against the Toronto Blue Jays. So until then, we're going to start with our first player preview and prediction player from your Athletics and talk about right-handed pitcher Luis Medina. Medina is currently 26 years old and will be turning 27 this May, so he'll be entering his age 27 season. He currently has 2.146 years of MLB service time and is under team control until 2030. Medina is a native of the Dominican Republic, and he initially signed dating back to 2015, where he signed as an international free agent with the New York Yankees back then, and was added to the Yankees' 40-man roster headed into the 2020 season to avoid being selected by another team in the Rule 5 draft, which we have talked about here on this podcast platform many episodes ago. He did make it up to AA in 2022, meaning Medina, before being part of a trade with the Oakland A's, which involved Medina, J.P. Sears, Ken Waldichuk, and Cooper Bowman going to being received from the Yankees in exchange for Frankie Montas and Lou Trevino. Medina would go on to finish the 2022 season at AA Midland before making his major league debut the following season when he got the call up on April 25th and made his debut on April 26th against the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. During his rookie campaign, he made 23 appearances, with 17 of those being starts, pitching to a 3-10 record with a 5.42 ERA, racking up 106 strikeouts across 109 and 2/3 innings pitched. The following year, he began the 2024 season on the injured list after suffering a grade 2 MCL sprain in spring training. He came back on June 2nd to make 8 starts, going 2-4 with a 5.18 ERA with 32 strikeouts in 40 innings. On July 25th of that 2024 season, it was announced he would be undergoing Tommy John surgery. And since then, we have not seen him pitch as he has been rehabbing from that surgery, with him not appearing in a professional game in 2025. So as a pitcher, he attacks hitters with the following repertoire. And this was according to MLB Savant from his 2024 season, since there isn't any available data from not pitching any games this past year. But during that season, he utilizes his fastball the most at 42%, followed by his slider with a 25% pitch usage, sinker at 15%, curveball at 10%, changeup at 8%. And his fastball velocity during that season averaged 95.9 miles an hour, which ranked in the 79th percentile. Just from the bit that I have gotten to see Medina I remember that 2024 season, and even a little bit of his time as a prospect. I had heard that name when he was in the Yankee system. He does just seem to come at you with that raw, effortless velocity. Does have the good strikeout stuff. The numbers do correlate with that excellent combination of the velo fastball and the hammer curveball. What he's going to need to work on is two areas of importance. One is to stay healthy, because we don't know what Medina is going to look like in 2026 fully. We do know what he's capable of when healthy, but it's just a matter of how long is it going to take until he feels 100% and perhaps even a little bit more improved than before. So time will tell there. History does say that first season when you do return from Tommy John, a lot of pitchers do struggle to find their footing. You're going to see some good, you're going to see some bad, and a little bit in the middle. So I think patience is the key word to circle or associate with Luis Medina here, because I still think there is still a lot in that gifted right arm. It's just going to take him time to get back to who he was, between the combination of recovering from that injury, but then also we haven't seen him throw a major league pitch since 2024. He's human. There's going to be natural rust associated there. But this is someone I wanted to lead off here because I think there's a lot surrounding on what his role truly could be with this A's team. With his prior experience, it does seem like he would line up to be competing for one of those starting pitching rotation spots. But with that heavy velo fastball and that hammer curveball, it makes you think he can really profile as a top-end, back-end reliever type guy. Now, obviously, he does have the endurance in his arm to be able to withstand several innings as a starter and build up his pitch count. But remember back when he was starting regularly, it would be a grind for him to get through 4 or 5 innings. That pitch count would elevate quickly. He would struggle, and this was part of his second point where he does need to get a little bit more consistency with his command. And I think that's where he runs into some trouble, and where you see where he has this elite stuff, but then also elevated ERA and elevated home runs per 9 and some numbers that are unfavorable there too as well. The missing piece just seems to be being able to hone in that raw stuff just a little bit better. Because if you're not pinpoint and you're not consistent with your location, these are major league hitters. They will feast on mistakes, even if you are throwing 99 plus miles an hour. They see that every day, especially when they are facing off against relievers, throwing 99, 100, 101, whatever the case may be. So I think with Medina, it's health, it's command. If he can get on track with 2 of those, especially dominate in one of those, I mean, the health would be the most important. But if he can take strides in getting a little bit better with his location, then he's going to even be an even more effective pitcher for this A's team. Where do I see him? I personally, I think he really, the makeup, especially if you don't want to rush him along and you want to give him the opportunity to build up his confidence and build up that endurance, I would love to see Medina utilized as a middle to back end reliever type this year, because that'll give you an opportunity to be able to control his pitch count, build it up at a slower rate, because when someone is coming back from a major injury like that, you don't want to fast play it. As much as he's probably going to show a lot of flashes of brilliance this spring training, and with where this A's team is at, they can use all the pitching help that they can get. So it's going to be very, very dire and important that the A's don't rush him along, because it's going to be something where the A's are going to want to press that button and perhaps deploy him as filling him in the back end of that rotation, and perhaps working on every 5th day with that elevated pitch count could be a little bit too much too soon. So, but I just think that you'll even see an uptick in that velocity. His arm's going to be fresh, and the movement on his pitches. I think sometimes when you get into that bullpen role, when you're just facing a particular lane of hitters in the opponent's lineup, there's less thinking involved, and sometimes that can be something that unlocks someone to just let them go out there and pitch and let their stuff take over. Wouldn't hate that personally. I do think he is going to be an integral part of this team, especially in the back end. I think early on, whenever he is given the green light to be ready to go, I do think they're going to slow play it. And don't be surprised if he does even start the year at AAA, but I do feel like Medina, you're going to see him in the green and gold, I would say no later than June, if I was going to be, if this is not off any direct sources or anything like that. This is all a hunch. And just seeing how these professional teams bring back their players from Tommy John and timelines and all of that good stuff. But don't be surprised if you see Medina in an important back-end high-leverage role, because I just feel like he makes up that model. And perhaps we can revisit the conversation of him being a regular rotation guy. I'm sure that's the competitor Medina. That's what he wants to do. He wants to return to getting the ball every 5th day and letting the game be on his shoulders. But to me, just personally, I think for his short-term and long-term success, wouldn't hate for him to get back into the Major League waters, maybe having a little bit more success at that back end, letting him build up that confidence. And then when he does have that full year of recovery under his belt, maybe we can revisit the conversation of Medina being an integral part of the 2027 rotation. But personally, that's what I would love to see. But nevertheless, let's start with him being healthy, because when he is on the mound, when he is right, that stuff definitely has some high potential. All right, so according to Fangraphs, some projections are out there, and we're going to take a look at what they think Medina will produce in 2026. So they predict that he is going to appear in 46 games and make 11 starts, pitching to a 5-5 win-loss record with a 4.58 ERA, a 4.50 FIP. They believe he'll pitch 92 innings, allowing 41 walks, 81 strikeouts, and pitching to a 7.98 per K per 9 rate. So I think that would be a vast improvement for where Medina has been at the major league level. You could see that ERA that I've talked about in his history, it hasn't been anything below a 5. So this would be a welcoming sight and steps in the right direction. And what we're going to do, and this we're slowly introducing it, but this is how it's going to be moving forward on each of these episodes. We're going to do their projected line, and then we're going to pick a number from each player's respective projection, and make an over-under prediction just to keep it fun. It won't be the same thing every time. We want to keep it fresh and keep it interesting. So for Medina, we want to narrow in on those 11 games started. And with that combination, that feels like they're going to deploy Medina as a swingman type arm. And with that, I don't know if that's necessarily going to be the best long-term play. And the only way that I feel like this happens in this scenario is if the A's are mini sellers at the deadline, because perhaps the first half didn't get off to the start that they were hoping. Maybe they move a piece like a Severino or a Springs to a team that needs an arm and is rearing up for their postseason run. I could see in that scenario, then Medina perhaps would slide into the back end of that rotation. But as long as the A's are in contention or playing meaningful baseball, I do think the rotation, they have enough pieces in place through that 5. They have depth guys that are competing alongside Medina as well, where again, for his short-term and long-term benefit, I think you can really deploy Medina in a 1 to 2 inning back-end bullpen rotation type arm. I think playing around with those roles in that same year could mess up with the pitcher's psyche, especially there's already enough a person coming back from injury is dealing with mentally, that adding more into this plate. I think having a solidified role and plan in place from start to finish would be really beneficial, especially in that first year returning back. Then, like I said, I feel like year 2, 2027 for Medina, then we can expand the conversation a little bit more. So that's why, based on my personal preference and theory, we wanted to hone in on picking the over-under of the 11 games started. And I think if all is going right in terms of the A's team success, if Medina hits the under here, I feel like that means the A's are winning games and are in a meaningful spot to perhaps return to the postseason for the first time since 2020. So we're going to take the under there. Love that they plan on him appearing in 45 games, which means that they project him to make it through the year mainly healthy, which would be a welcoming sign to the A's organization and to green and gold faithful everywhere, because Medina is still someone that I think can make a huge impact on the pitching side, an area where the A's continue to look for more vast improvement and depth options. With that brings us to the conclusion of our first edition of A's Player Preview and Prediction Series. Like I mentioned at the top of the show, we're going to be doing these one episode per day all the way until opening day, concluding with an A's team preview and prediction episode the morning of A's opening day on March 27th. Very exciting time. And it's good to be back doing these regularly, because that means there's going to be a ton of A's content on the radio waves for the remainder of this month to help curb our excitement and remain patient as we await the long-awaited return of regular season baseball. And we are under a month away from that. Join us tomorrow as we talk about the season outlook of our next A's player preview and prediction that we have selected. Tomorrow, we are going to talk about the backstop, Shea Langoliers. Take care, everyone. We'll see you tomorrow. And until then, Holy Toledo, let's go A's.